Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm here in Elsweyr with Ember the Khajiit checking out my new Nightblade build. This setup has dual wield daggers on both bars and it's the first time I've had a build like this on the channel. This is also my first time using one of the new dungeon sets coming in Update 45 and I have to say I'm pretty impressed with it. This set seems to fall in between Pillar of Nirn and Aegis Caller damage wise, so it's going to work fine for just about any content you want to do. Okay, so let's get on with today's Nightblade build, Bladestorm. And maybe I can get Ember to show me around her homeland a little while we're here.
Anything specific in mind?
No, not really. Starting with the character sheet, you can see I'm a Dark Elf and they're a top pick for damage dealer characters. They have bonuses to max magicka and stamina and weapon and spell damage, making them excellent for both magicka and stamina DPS. I'll put up the tier list for stamina DPS for you guys that want to know. If you're rolling a new character though, don't base your race on this. Go with the race you find the most interesting. To me, the fun factor is more important than small differences in performance. I'm using lava foot soup and salt rice as my food, and that gives me stamina and stamina recovery. In a lot of cases, this leaves my health a little low. Two fixes for that are switching my food to something like Dubious Camoran Throne, or putting some health cliffs on my armor. If I can run with less sustain, I might just switch foods. My Mundus Stone is the Thief, and that's my best bet for group content, especially on this build because of one of the sets I'm wearing, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Ignore that my character is a vampire, it's not relevant to the build, he's just been a vampire now for years and I haven't bothered to change him. Looking at the top of the sheet, I've got all 64 attribute points in stamina, and that's the norm for a stamina DPS. My health is at 18,000 and stamina is at 30,000. Health is below the Mendoza line, and I already talked about how I would adjust that higher, but I generally don't do that in the videos. I just leave it as is. Stamina recovery is at 1,500, and that's perfect for the 4-player dungeons. Weapon damage is at 4,400 and crit is at 37%. Both of those get buffed by potions of weapon power. For anybody new, I want to mention that you'll have to level the alchemy skill line to get the most out of potions. But I know all you guys are going to be smart and level crafting as you go so you can make your lives easier. Penetration is up there at 9,000 points. That's a lot for a static character sheet, and this build is going to wind up over-penetrating a lot. If the boss has both major and minor breach on them, this build will be right at their maximum resistance, and any other pen bonuses will be wasted. I'm not crazy about that, but I'll live with it because I really like this setup. I'll revisit this when we talk about the gear, and you'll see why this build has so much penetration. Alright, that's it for the character sheet, because nothing else on here is important to a PvE damage dealer.
Razum-dar found a new farmhand.
Yes, sweet one, thank you. We're going to look into our troubles right after they wake up your brother.
Brother is still sleeping? Razum-dar rose at dawn and has been working hard all day.
If only your brother were as dutiful as you.
Alright, let's go find the brother and see if we can help these people.
What? Who is there? This one's head may ache, but that does not mean he cannot defend himself.
Razum-dar? Is that you?
Five Claw? Raz thought he recognized you. Moons only know what brings you to this backwater place, but it is always good to see a friend. Raz would offer you wine, but he has unfortunately drank it all. Perhaps you have some?
What are you doing here?
Queen Irene insisted that Raz take a vacation after his last mission. Even the eye of the Queen needs to blink now and then, she told him. So Raz returned to Elsweyr to spend some quality time with his family.
You definitely earned a break. Man, look at this place. Brother, are you smoking skooma? Never mind, we got work to do. Well, while Razum-dar gets cleaned up, I might as well look at my skills. Before I get into the skills though, I just want to mention that this build does involve light attack weaving, and you want to get those in there as well as you can. Even in a case where those light attacks aren't doing much damage, they're important for building ultimate and proccing any sets that work off light attacks. My light attack weaving is pretty mediocre, but I don't let it hold me back, and you shouldn't either if you're in the same boat. Just do as well as you can. Both bars here are daggers, and that's already been established, so let's start with my back bar. The first skill I use is the Nightblade skill, Dark Shade. This shadowy figure will attack nearby enemies doing magic damage while it lasts. I activate this before I engage the enemy, and I refresh it every rotation. And I should have already mentioned that I'm using a static rotation here. That means I go through my skills in the same order repeatedly until the fight is over. And I'm presenting the skills in the order I use them in that static rotation. Okay, the next skill I use is the dual wield skill, Deadly Cloak. I use Deadly Cloak in just about every build that I'm dual wielding on, and that's because it does great damage and it offers me protection from area attacks. But Deadly Cloak takes on special significance here because I'm also using it to increase my weapon damage. Deadly Cloak is the one skill in the dual wield skill line that will do that if I have the right traits and glyphs on my weapons. I'll cover that in the gear section. For now, it's enough to know that this skill will behave just like Volley, Wall of Elements, and Stampede if my setup is correct. In the case of dual wield, I can't get quite as much extra weapon damage, but it does offer some compensation. More on that when I talk about gear. The next skill I use is Ambush. This Nightblade skill is a gap closer that does a small amount of damage and causes my enemy to have minor vulnerability while it gives me minor berserk. I don't really need the minor berserk, I have that sourced elsewhere, but don't underestimate 10 seconds of minor vulnerability. That 5% bonus to damage as I go through the highest damage part of my rotation is significant. The last skill I'm going to use on this bar is the Scribe skill, Bloody Burst. This does bleed damage over time, and gives me minor courage, increasing my weapon damage. It's nice to get some more area damage into the build with this skill because when I go to the other bar, it's all single target. My healing skill is on this bar, and that's Resolving Vigor. Resolving Vigor will refill my health bar over 5 seconds and increase my armor by 3,000 points. Get this from the PvP skill lines if you don't already have it. Go do the tutorial and you'll level the skill line enough to get this without ever having to face the enemy in Cyrodiil. But you never know, you might like PvP, so if you haven't tried it, don't write it off. Personally, I like Battlegrounds, but some changes are coming to Cyrodiil, so we'll have to wait and see what the impact of those changes is. Alright, I got one more skill on this bar, and that's my ultimate Ice Comet. This comes from the Mages Guild skill line, and if you don't have that, you can slot something else like Dawnbreaker. Alright, that's it for the back bar. On the front bar, the first skill I'm going to use is Debilitate. Debilitate is a single target Nightblade ability that deals magic damage over time and does a great job of applying the overcharged status effect. Now I use the Scribe skill, Bloody Knife. My custom version of this skill does instant damage and increases my chance to apply status effects by 100% for 10 seconds. I also get minor berserk for 20 seconds. Now I'll use my spammable attack 10 times. That skill is the Nightblade skill, Surprise Attack. This skill does physical damage, applies the Sundered status effect, and 1 out of 3 attacks will crit if I'm attacking from the flank. I'm going to replace Surprise Attack in my rotation with my next skill when it's ready. That skill is Merciless Resolve, and this stacks every time I successfully light attack and can stack up to 5 times. Each stack increases my weapon damage, and at 5 stacks I can fire a Spectral Arrow for high damage. When my enemy reaches 25% health, I'll completely replace Surprise Attack with Killer's Blade. This execute skill does high damage to low health targets and will be my finisher in every fight. I have one more skill on this bar, and that's the ultimate Soul Harvest. This is the ultimate I'll use most of the time, and in addition to its initial damage, it increases my overall damage by 20% for 8 seconds. I try to use this right before I start using my spammable attack. Okay, you've seen the skills, now let's see them in action. So the build did 57,000 points of damage per second on this easy world boss, and unfortunately this small display of that result is all I have for you. I'm on the test server here and I can't get you the full-blown combat metrics result, but this is a copy of my character from the live server with one small difference. On the live server I have Pillar of Nirn front barred. Here I have one of the new sets, and the new set did better. With Pillar the build ranged from 53 to 58,000, and with the new set the range was from 55 to 60. 57 is a typical result right in the middle of the range, and that's the kind of damage you can expect to do in the 4-player dungeons with this setup. Okay, that's it for this part. Stick around and I'll show you the gear. Have you ever thought that your problem is that your fields are full of lions and terror birds? I mean, there's one right there. There's one over your left shoulder. Let's get the lions and the terror birds out of your fields. There's a big damn terror bird up the road. I'm going to go up there and kill the shit out of that one. I'm going to start there. Then I'm going to come back here and clear these lions and terror birds out of your fields.
In the meantime, Raz will try to convince his family to stay out of the fields. Perhaps they will be reasonable today. That would be a welcome change, yes?
I may have gone off half-cocked earlier. These birds need to go, but I don't know about the lions. I mean, aren't Khajiit lions? Anyway, there may be more going on here than meets the eye. Let's get back to the plantation. I got a lead we need to follow up on tonight, which is right up your alley. It's going to involve stealth.
I love any excuse to sneak around, so long as I never get caught. That just ruins the fun of it.
I want to check my gear before we head back, though. On my front bar, I have the new 5-piece set, Jerensi's Bladestorm. This set comes from the Exiled Redoubt dungeon, which will be available in Update 45. This set creates a 6-meter vortex of spikes whenever I cast an area effect on the ground. It also turns out that it can be procced by the scribe skill Traveling Knife, and that's what I'm using here. I can proc it with Twisting Path, and that works well, but the vortex winds up centered around me instead of the enemy. I like Traveling Knife because the vortex forms around the enemy. This set has 2 big bonuses to penetration, which can result in having too much pen in group content, but the set works so well that I would go ahead and run it anyway. You wouldn't run this in a Bleeding Edge Trials group, but in 4-player dungeons I wouldn't hesitate. Now on the front bar, my glyphs and traits are pretty standard. Both daggers are charged on this status effect heavy setup, and the main hand glyph is poison and the backup is fire. My back bar daggers are Aegis Caller, and this is where things get interesting. The main hand is infused with a weapon damage glyph, and that's working with the Deadly Cloak skill to increase my weapon damage. My backup hand is charged with a disease damage glyph. Make sure all of your weapon glyphs are different in your builds. They all have to be different on any build. Traits can be the same, but glyphs have to be different or they won't work properly. That's because the glyphs of the same type will share the same cooldown, with the end result being that one or more of them won't proc. Aegis Caller comes from the Unhallowed Grave dungeon and is a powerful DPS set if you can control the procs and you have a boss that stays still sometimes. My monster helm is Selene, and that's from the dungeon of the same name. That procs the spectral bear you saw in the sample fight, and it does high single target damage. I'm wearing one more piece of gear, and that's the mythic item Velothi Mage's Amulet. This is a great item to run if you have iffy light attack weaving like I do. Of course, you can leave that item out or run a different mythic like the Harpooner's Waiting Kilt. The kilt is lousy when I'm solo though, so you're never going to see me wear it in these demos. If you run with a good tank all the time, then by all means run the kilt. Armor traits on this should be divines and the weight should be medium. This is one build where I wouldn't use a single light piece like I can for more stats. That's going to give me more penetration, and I don't want more penetration here. I may have had an infused trait in there somewhere and maybe one light piece, but my gear gets swapped between 8 different characters and all kinds of builds. Speaking of traits, the jewelry here is bloodthirsty with weapon damage glyphs. Alright, that's it for the gear. I hope that stuff about not having duplicate glyphs made sense. You guys that have been around for a while all know that, but there are a lot of new people out there that don't. I'm always trying to strike a balance in the videos between explaining too much and not enough. Hopefully I wind up right there in the middle. Alright, let's look at the champion points quickly so we can wrap things up. In the blue tree I have Deadly Aim, Wrathful Strikes, Master at Arms, and Fighting Finesse. Ignore the blanks up in the green tree. They made a change to the champion points and which ones have to be slotted and which ones don't, and that'll be coming with update 45. Well, we finally figured out what was going on here at the farm. It wasn't lions or terror birds, but something far more sinister, and you guys probably aren't surprised by that. And it looks like we figured it out not a moment too soon, because Raz just got another letter from the Queen. You off again, Raz?
Seems that duty calls, thank the moons. Raz does not know if he would have survived another day with his oh-so-beloved family. Still, he can at least stay for one more meal.
I hope you enjoyed today's Nightblade video, Bladestorm. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, help me out with the algorithm by crushing the like button. If you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel if you're not already subscribed. There's a fashion show and a fight at the end, as always, and you can stick around for that stuff if you're interested. Again, thanks for watching, have a great day, and enjoy your adventures in Tamriel.
A little help here? Mira, give me strength.
Will lions attack a Khajiit? You ready, Ember? Oh, look, they're attacking her. Lions will attack a Khajiit. Look at this, Oh, here's another one. Here's another one right here. Kill him. All right, stop the camera. I think I'm hurt.